mercy, just the cold hard truth. We're the ones who fight, and we're ready for you. Locked and loaded, the truth's our ammo. We're breaking down the doors, no more shadows in the doghouse. It's all or nothing, we're here to fight, no bluffing, no running. Locked and loaded, the truth's our ammo. We're breaking down the doors, no more shadows in the doghouse. It's all or nothing, we're here to fight, no bluffing, no running. No running, no bluffing, no running. No running, no running, no running. We don't back down, we stand our ground. In the doghouse where the real are found. No change, no fear, just pure aggression. We're here to win, no second guessing. No second guessing. This is the doghouse, time to face the sound. Welcome to the doghouse, where the strong survive. We're tearing down the walls, no compromise. No filter, no mercy, just the cold hard truth. We're the ones who fight, and we're ready for you. The truth's our ammo. We're breaking down the doors, no more shadows in the doghouse. It's all or nothing. We're here to fight, no bluffing, no running. Locked and loaded, the truth's our ammo. We're breaking down the doors, no more shadows in the doghouse. It's all or nothing. We're here to fight, no bluffing, no running. We don't back down, we stand our ground in the doghouse, where the real are found. No change, no fear, just pure aggression. We're here to win, no second guessing. No second guessing. This is the doghouse, time to face the sound. This is the doghouse, time to face the sound. This is the doghouse, time to face the sound. We don't back down, we stand our ground in the doghouse, where the real are found. No chains, no fear, just pure aggression. We're here to win, no second guessing. This is the doghouse, time to face the sound. Where the strong survive. We're tearing down the walls, no compromise. No filter, no mercy, just the cold hard truth. We're the ones who bite, and we're waiting for you. Welcome to the doghouse, where the strong survive. We're tearing down the walls, no compromise. No filter, no mercy, just the cold hard truth. We're the ones who bite, and we're ready for you. Welcome to the doghouse, where the strong survive. We're tearing down the walls, no compromise. No filter, no mercy, just the cold hard truth. We're the ones who fight, and we're ready for you. Locked and loaded, the truth's our ammo. We're breaking down the doors, no more shadows in the doghouse. It's all or nothing, we're here to fight, no bluffing, no running. Locked and loaded, the truth's our ammo. We're breaking down the doors, no more shadows in the doghouse. It's all or nothing, we're here to fight, no bluffing, no running. No running, no bluffing,
Hey D, can you hear me? Unplug whatever is powering your mic and plug it back in. I can't hear you. I know that you're staticking out. I know you're having problems. I know you know that. You should need to be able to plug that in because it sounds like it's statically ground, which is probably coming from the power supply of whatever powers your marks. It's trying, but it's not there yet. Give me just a second. Let me see if I can get Osiris. Oh, perfect.
There you go. Now it's
What's up? I don't know.
just, yeah, I just went and unmuted the stream, which is several seconds delayed, and it's still hearing static while
All
we're
right.
hearing your voice.
This should be better now. Let me see. Let me check my mic here. Hold on. All right. Let's see. Yep, it's better now. Okay. I just have my stream up to the side. What it is, guys, for anyone who's unaware, I am never using my friend suggested using SteelSeries sonar, and it has given me nothing but absolute fucking problems. I'm going back to using voice meter. I don't give a damn. I will buy an XLR setup eventually, so it sounds a little bit more clean. So I don't want to waste too much more time. Not a great way to start the show, but technical problems happen. So let's go ahead and jump into the panel. There we go. Should have everything popping up here now. Yep. All right. So, guys, we are on the Political Compass episode number 4. We're waiting for everybody to get in here. It looks like it's just going to be us 4 tonight. I'm waiting for Ty. Once Ty gets back, we'll get started. But yeah, guys, I am not using sonar anymore. What's going on, April? JP, I saw you in chat. Yes. Yeah, we got Wes in here. I brought Wes over here, JP. Okay, I didn't want to bring. Only problem is I hate using right now. For anybody who's unaware, my mic right now is hooked directly up to this microphone, which is not going to give the best audio. It is what it is. I've been good, JP. Been trying to be good. I did a TikTok live stream, and nobody heard that because they heard static. I did a TikTok live stream. Let me adjust some settings real quick. I did a TikTok live stream about 20, 30 minutes ago. And that was actually really fun. I had upwards of 80 people watching my TikTok live stream. It was pretty dope. I had people. I'm having to get used to. I'm kind of like that boomer right now who's trying to like navigate through all these like new fads of like what the hell is a donut? What the hell is a rose? I don't know any of this stuff. I'm learning this TikTok lingo stuff. So yeah, I made like 47 cents on TikTok from streaming for an hour. So that was cool, I guess. But no, there was a lot of people on there, and it was fun. It's kind of like it's like speed dating Twitter. Okay, like you know how all the trolls are in Twitter and they're like firing off comments. That's what it's like, but on like steroids. Okay, you're like sitting there and you're just like pop, 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 like comment after comment after comment. It's like Trump, 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 Trump. It's like holy shit. It's insane. I see everybody is now on this Warhammer shtick over there, Ty, huh?
I broke mine back out.
Oh
I've
shoot.
always I was always a fantasy fan, but they killed it back in 2015, and they brought it back this year.
Is that
So
what
like
it is? Okay. Cuz
so Connor's
I
Connor's always been in 40K, which was the more popular one, even though they made it second. But I've been a fantasy player. They killed fantasy for something called Age of Sigmar, which was kind of shit. But
AOS sucked.
yeah, I'm not a fan of AOS. It's gotten better. I'll give them that. But there's levels where I still have a bit of hatred because they turned fantasy into that. And I don't think it's as good. But they have slow rolled a new version of fantasy out called the Old World because the reason they killed it wasn't selling well. Well, two things. One, since they killed the game, they've had Warhammer Total War. And all 3 games of that, which sold very well, which kind of revitalized interest in it. And then they started re-releasing the minis this year. And
Gotcha.
they're making a killing. Like, it's selling... this is not official, but this is the rumor that's come out. It's selling 3 times better than what they expected it to.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it at all. I don't know why Dogbot is tripping out either. But yeah, I've seen a lot of it going around. I saw Connor obviously posting a lot about it, but then Destiny has gotten involved with it. I seen Sanso posting about it. So I was like, what is going on with this Warhammer thing that I'm not privy to? Because it's like clearly I should be privy to something here.
It's British D&D.
Oh,
Like
okay.
unironic. It is that where we had an individualized idea of like, hey, you make your character, you join the party, you guys go on campaign together. The British version, unironically, was you build an army and you send your army off to battle. You know, it was a lot more about, you know, doing all that.
All right.
So yeah, I play high elves, and you know, it has all the fantasy tropes. You have elves, you have dwarves, you have big fucking monsters. You literally have an entire faction that's dinosaurs, unironically. Oh, it's base as fuck. I love the lizards. But it's just one of those deals where you got to have that conversation with the 40K players. They like it for the sci-fi, like machismo shit. I like fantasy because it's better than Tolkien. But
Yeah.
anyway, I'm going to completely hijack your show. So
No, you're fine. No, you could probably go on and on about like Warhammer. I have no idea. I need to get into it. I want to get into it. But anyways, all right, guys. So we're gonna start the political compass show now. Now that there's static, and now that we've spent 10 minutes trying to figure this out. All right, guys. So welcome to the political compass show. This is episode number 4. We are greeted by our fabulous guests. Tonight, we are going to be talking for sure about tech censorship and border and immigration. We may even pivot into Ukraine and U.S. relations and Israel and Lebanon war. So a little bit of foreign policy, a little bit of domestic policy stuff going on here. So we are going to jump into that. First and foremost, let's just jump straight into the tech censorship topic. But before we do that, we're going to have our guests introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about their political philosophy and their political ideology. Ty, do you want to kick us off?
yeah, I can go first. Hello, everyone. My name is Tiberius D. I am a center-right Hoosier from the great state of Indiana. And yeah, I'm just grew up as a farm boy, went to college, and so I piss everybody off because I don't agree with hardly anybody. Yeah, there's some things you'll see me agree with the right on, and there's some things you'll see me agree with the left on. Some people think I'm sensible, some people think I'm nuts. I'll let you decide.
All right, Wes, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, buddy.
What's up? I'm Wes or Wesley. I use here they pronouns. Either set works fine. I didn't know I was with a fellow Hoosier here. I was born in South Bend. So I am a Hoosier as well, I guess, technically, although I only lived there for a couple years. And I guess I represent, like, you know, more of the leftist side. I don't really give a shit about electoralism kind of thing. But
Okay. Sounds good.
Go ahead.
Ancom, go ahead. Tell us a little bit about yourself, buddy.
All right. Well, since we're all giving where we're from, I am a California transplant by way of Massachusetts, having lived in 2 of the most liberal states in the country. I managed to find my way into anarchism, or for people who have a negative understanding of the word, which most people do, just think of it as libertarian plus, because in many ways that's all it is. So yeah, that's about it.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So, guys,
Do-
I am your host, The Doghouse Show, and to tell you a little bit about it. This is your first time here. I am a former conservative, moved to liberal, and some may say lib cuck or whatever, and that's okay. I'll take it. All right. If you're on Twitter, I might be called a socialist and a communist. So I'm all over. I am like Thanos. Okay. I've got all stones on my glove and my gauntlet. Okay. So there's no denying that I am the unstoppable Thanos. But yeah, guys, so let's jump straight into this. Let's talk a little bit about tech censorship and a little bit about what's going on. I'll give all of our viewers a little bit of a background of what's been going on. So over the past couple of days, we have seen something come out with the JD Vance dossier. There's been a lot of rumors about where this dossier originated from. It seems like, from what it sounds like, is it originated from Iran. We'll get into a little bit about that background during this discussion. It also released, because it got released, Ken Klippenstein ended up getting his post removed due to the fact that this leaked information had JD Vance's address, it had JD Vance's social security number, it had all these different sensitive bits of information, and thus it was removed. Now, this is in light of what happened in, I believe it was early 2020s, somewhere in that ballpark, or 2018, whatever it was, where Hunter Biden ended up, the Hunter Biden information ended up getting removed from Twitter. And a lot of conservatives were up in arms about this situation taking place. Now, I won't reveal all the other details and all the nuances and positions and opinions. I'll let our guests do that. Let's start us off. Tiberius, you tell us a little bit about where you stand on this whole debacle that took place on Twitter.
I'm gonna let Tiberius speak, and I want to hear his opinion. But I just wanted to jump in here with a real quick fact check: is that Ken Klippenstein's account is entirely deleted.
Correct. Yes.
It's not that the post
yes.
was removed, which, like you said.
Yeah. Sorry.
His
Apologies.
entire account has been deleted.
Thank you for that, Wes. I appreciate that edit there. Thank you. Go ahead, Ty.
Yeah, so I'm not going to speak a lot to this particular subject because I'm still trying to get some like actually good quality information on it. I know there's some of you who are terminally online who seem to know everything about what's going on. That's great. I love you, but I don't. When it comes down to it, there's been a lot of tech censorship, and a lot of it I think is not actually too far above board. There's some levels where there's obviously like breaches of privacy and information. While privacy is not a guaranteed right, and for some reason we refuse to have that conversation here in this country, there is a level where, we don't find it ethical, and we find it very concerning when someone's social security number is released, or when their address is released, or their phone number is released. Especially when you're somebody super prominent like that. That can be incredibly problematic. Generally, what if my own, excuse me, indigestion. Generally, with my own partaking in this, I try to stay far away from this as I can. But let's be real, it's everywhere. Facebook censors, Twitter censors, X censors, everybody censors. The question is, why do you do it? I'm going to let that go up in the open because I think there's a big conversation to be had about like who does what, where, and why, and how. But there's definitely a thing here where it doesn't really bother me that much. So we'll go from there.
All right. All right. Wes, go ahead and give us your take about this whole incident that took place.
I mean, I think it's ridiculous. Like, from my view, somebody, there was the Twitter files, and then there's Elon reinstating someone who literally had like child pornography on their account, and then he bans this person. So I think it's all personal. I feel like it comes down to Elon himself, and if it's actually like a team making these decisions, then I'll happily admit I was wrong. But it feels like this is an Elon decision, and if it like I'm tired of people trying to tell me that like this is the free speech platform, while Elon is the one who's making decisions like. And again, I'm happy to be proven wrong if it wasn't just Elon and there was a team behind this that made like a strategic decision. But like, we've never seen that before, so I don't know.
All right, all right, all right. Next we are gonna have Ancom. So Ancom, go ahead and let us know what you think about this whole idea. I know you had a little bit more insight on kind of some of the stuff that goes on with tech censorship, and we can draw this out outside of just simply what took place with
Yeah,
King Klippenstein.
and that's exactly what I was going to do, because this is just one example of a long-standing and frankly somewhat troubling pattern, which is the people who seem to shout the loudest about freedom of speech. If I'm not mistaken, Elon Musk himself has repeatedly referred to himself as a free speech absolutist. The people who shout the loudest so often seem to be the ones who want to restrict it the most, because that they are on private, or because they own or control private platforms. Now, I do want to be clear. When we're talking about freedom of speech in the United States, and we're talking specifically about the First Amendment, that is the ability, or rather right to protection from the ability of the government to censor speech that it does not like. The court has time and time again defended this ability, even in some of the most extreme circumstances, all the way down to burning the flag and distributing salacious and, even pornographic material, as they, ruled back in the 50s and 60s. However, in private platforms such as Twitter, I refuse it to call it by the other name, do not have any legal responsibility to follow, or to obey or go along with these protections. They have every right to remove whatever content from their platform that they wish. That said, it is incredibly inconsistent of Musk, who declares himself a free speech absolutist, to be removing anything from the site that is not like explicitly, dangerous to to life or limb of some people. And even then, like, free speech absolutist would suggest that even that sort of speech should not be removed, unless compelled by the government. And they do have that ability in extreme cases. So, to sum up, the people who shout the loudest are so fucking inconsistent that the specifics of any particular incident matter far less than the overall pattern, and I find it disgusting simply because of the utter and complete hypocrisy on display.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me know, guys, as well in the chat. I just adjusted my mic a little bit. One of the things for me that I find that I don't like about this, is that more so, we just saw Donald Trump sit there today actually and mention how he wanted to censor Fox News. Um, and I was like, what? And so this is the same thing with like the Elon Musk situation and what's going on with X and what's going on with the conservatives. The conservatives are sitting there, and I feel like when this got released, they worked into overdrive to find some kind of area that they were like, yeah, well, we don't like that, because the reality, they just didn't want to see all this information come out about JD Vance, and they try to cover it up.
You can't handle the truth.
They try to cover it up by any metric possible. And I think that, look, if you're a free speech absolutist, let everything out there. If it's sensitive, I get it. I would say that probably socials probably should be excluded, but then it kind of begs into question, like, how much information as a public official should we hide? I don't know. Right now, granted, someone's social is pretty sensitive to say the least, but also not a lot of mainstream media outlets have been discussing this entirely. And it sounds like a lot of it has to tie back to the fact that this may have been given by Iran. Ty, feel free to jump in if you know anything about that aspect. But I think the source of this information seems to have been from Iran.
I can't speak to that either. I'm still actually kind of waiting for some details on my end. What I can say is this. I'm going to defend fucking Elon, even though I can't stand him. Because there is a level where I think some credit is due here, and there's no Jeb Tan or Connor here to actually pull any weight. The long and the short here is that I actually don't think he's breaking his principle of being a free speech absolutist, because if we actually agree that the stance is that the free speech is for the government not kicking you in the ass, but a private platform has, like, technically he's completely within solid bounds. He can pick whatever the fuck he wants, and he's not inconsistent. The general level here is that what does our language actually tell us about ourselves? Because there's a lot of people who say they're free speech absolutists, and basically what they're usually actually saying is they want to go around, say all kinds of fuck shit wherever they can, and then not suffer any kind of social repercussion for it. And that's largely what it's been. And I don't have any problem with like throwing shade at people who are like that. And I think Elon has been that to some degree. So I do want to like make sure our terminology is correct. I've got him blocked on his own platform. I'm not gonna act like I like the guy. I don't. If he wants to send people off to Mars, by all means, let him. But this Twitter fiasco, I mean, what is it, 44 billion, and it's largely now evaluated less than 10 billion for this company. I'm not really impressed with what happened. It's a better place for me personally, because not only do I see just crazy left wing shitheads on display, I get to see crazy right wing shitheads on display, which makes me a little bit at home at heart, because I get to see everybody's bullshit, but also I get to remind myself I'm not the crazy one. So all around, I generally actually like X more than I like Twitter, but that doesn't mean that it's great.
So the only pushback I would give there is, if someone is going to call themselves a free speech absolutist, I think that it is inconsistent only because there is the colloquial understanding of the term free speech that implies that you believe in freedom of speech in all contexts, not just that where the government might censor you. So if you are going to be someone who believes staunchly in the right or in the freedom from government interference of your speech, then calling yourself a First Amendment absolutist would make more sense to me than calling yourself a free speech absolutist, simply because of the implication. If Elon Musk wanted to go on record and say he is a First Amendment absolutist, I would see no contradiction in principle there for exactly the reason Ty specified. However, because he's using the term free speech and there is an implied understanding of free speech under all contexts, then it seems a little more inconsistent to me that he so heavily censors people who say things that he does not like on his platform. Now, again, he absolutely has the right to do that, but I think he is absolutely deserving of any and all criticism people want to give him for those actions. And otherwise, I agree with what Ty said, which is people who scream about free speech usually just want to be able to say anything and everything without social repercussion, which is not at all what free speech actually protects.
Well, let's keep in mind something that I think a lot of people look over is the fact that Elon Musk, easy to mix those two up. Elon Musk ended up releasing a lot of the Twitter files, if I'm not mistaken. There was a lot of that going on. And so there's selective use of this, like, hey, we'll allow this, but we won't allow this. Now, it is important to note, if I'm trying to look at this in the most fair light possible, it is very interesting. They took down Ken Klippenstein's entire account. They did not just take down the post. That's important to note first. And second, a lot of people have gone around and actually started clipping out some of those excerpts from the actual leaked documents, but they censored out some of those areas where that sensitive information is given. And so far, it doesn't seem as if they have been taken down. We'll see if that happens, though I am skeptical that they will, given the blowback that had happened about Elon Musk being conveniently free speech and then this happening. But I think what you were saying, Ancom, is pretty much right on the money. That to me,
it's so weird to me, because like the way that you're gonna tell everybody that you're free speech absolutist, which like like Ancom said, is different than just being like pro First Amendment. Like everybody's pro First Amendment, but like free speech absolutist is like another level of just being able to say like whatever the fuck you want. And for him to do this and not only just like delete the post, but to delete the person off of this free speech platform, like it just, again, it makes me so mad about people who like talk to me and they're like, oh yeah, no, like, you know, x.com, it's where it's the public forum free speech platform. And I'm like, no, it's not, obviously. Like
Well,
anybody, go
it's
ahead.
kind of,
Sorry.
yeah, there's a little bit of a similar when we look at like when people talk about the Second Amendment, typically when they say I'm a Second Amendment absolutist, they mean it all the way to the point of nuclear weapons. Okay, so using that context, I would say that somebody who says they are a free speech absolutist would mean absolutely free speech, not necessarily in the light of legislative issues. But I don't know if we're going to be getting a whole lot of disagreement on this based on the conversations that we are having, unless Ty has something that he wants to kind of inject in there. But
Edge out.
yeah,
No, like,
that's what I was going to say.
this is one of the things I kind of shoot on the right for really, really hard. Like, I'm fine with having the conversation of, hey, some of this left wing shit that they've tried to put behind the door that we can't talk about on all these different places, whether it be COVID, whether it be transgenderism, yada yada yada. Like, I kind of share in that a little bit. There's definitely been, and it's not nearly as bad as it was, but before Roe took his shit, there was an arrogance among the left. And there was a level where, for a lot of people, and I was kind of one of them, where transgenderism kind of popped out of nowhere. And all of a sudden, it's like, not only are we having a national discourse about it, but the national discourse is actually over. And if you don't accept that transgenderism people is the thing, and transgender people are a thing, then you're a bigot and you're uneducated and go fuck yourself. And I'm like, no one was talking about this 4 or 5 years ago. So, like, there's levels where I'm totally on board for having like that kind of conversation. And granted, when I say 4 or 5 years ago, I'm talking like 2020. I totally get the skepticism of COVID. More particularly, I get the skepticism of big pharma. That's the
Let's
part
just-
where I can like get in.
Yeah, just be careful how far we go on it because I am streaming on YouTube.
I know. I'm streaming on YouTube as well. So like, I try not to break any things. What largely what I'm getting here is like, I won't outright push the denialism. I think there's a lot of anti-intellectual and anti-scientific claims that come out of the right, unfortunately. But some reservations, 100% okay with. The problem is that I'm expecting like the criticism to be at a 4 to a 6, and the criticism's at 11 constantly, and I'm just like, well, if you all can keep that coherent, more power to you. I can't.
Yeah, and what I think we're gonna do is, just because I feel like we're kind of going around in circles a little bit, I want to keep the conversation moving. I know we're already at 7:30, but let's go ahead and let's jump into our next topic, just to try to make sure that we have some movement here, because I think most of us are pretty much probably in damn near agreement here that this is just another example. So
I feel like we gotta get one leftist view on the transgender issue, and
Preferably two.
I vote Ancom.
Yeah, so the trans thing is, I think, okay, weirdly enough, the way Ty just put that seems to be exactly what the free speech absolutists, so-called, are trying to push back on, which is the idea that you have an opinion and people with a contrary opinion disagree with you, often vehemently, often to the point that like you don't feel socially comfortable voicing your opinions. And once again, this is an example of they want free speech in the sense of they want to be able to say whatever they want without social consequence. And that's all people who want to talk in a certain way about trans people are seeking. Like, they just want to say, they want to do shit like make documentaries like what is a woman without social pushback. And you're just not going to get that because most people in this country at this point, I haven't seen like the latest surveys, but I feel like it's like the general acceptance of trans people existing and being able to live their lives however they want. Most people in the country are cool with that.
It's pretty much down party lines, and what I mean by party lines is not like Republican and Democrat. I mean like Republican and Democrat, and then MAGA. That's what I mean. Just so we're clear, like there's like it's weird to me how like every time you look at a poll, it's like you can tell what percentage of that population is MAGA because it'll be like usually the 20%. It's always 20% for some reason. So that gives you a good idea of how much of the country is actually MAGA. But anyways,
that number only goes down as they die. Like that number,
rhetoric there, okay? Geez.
Like I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just saying like that number will stay the same for a long time until they all.
Well,
anyway.
I mean, we've been seeing some of the loudest voices in support of MAGA being the young people who are, taking up these media platforms and becoming, conservative influencers and things like that. So, I think that there is some staying power to it because though Gen Z, I think, generally tends to support trans people the most heavily of all of the various generations.
There's also still the most radical against it.
Exactly. Yeah. So Gen Z is taking up a new set of extremes that previous generations haven't, which to some opinions could be good, could be bad. It just kind of is what it is. But like, I don't think we're gonna see the loudness of the voices on either side of this issue get any quieter anytime soon. That is at least until we hit something of a social tipping point where you start to see a super majority of people leaning one way or the other, and then I think usually at that point you stop seeing as many squabbles about it. There are a couple notable examples, abortion being a big one. I think something like 70% of people in the country support abortion under at least some circumstances, and oftentimes the debates we see are, murder or bodily choice, and we very rarely get to see the nuance in the middle there, because like when they put it in those sorts of black and white terms, it becomes more divisive. Yes, I said divisive, not divisive. I don't know why. It's how my brain went at the moment. Anyways, so
this time.
Yeah. I think hopefully the trans issue will become less of a what's the word I'm looking for? Flashpoint societally as time goes on. But until we have big social figures like Donald Trump, J.K. Rowling, and various other major voices being so vehemently against their very existence, it's going to take a little bit before that goes away. But also, I do disagree with Ty on that, like, that it had just started, a few years ago, because, like, I've been, hearing trans discourse since 2014 at least. Like, I feel like I was hearing things about it earlier than that, and it's not like it wasn't in the cultural zeitgeist. I can go back to the 80s and see, episodes of sitcoms about trans people. They weren't common, but they existed.
That's what I was going to say, is I feel like it reached its peak probably about 4 years ago.
Yes, it definitely reached its peak, but like, the issue's been around for a very long time. Why it suddenly became such a big thing, I don't fully understand. I think it was, honestly, if I had to guess, it was about the fact that more people were talking about it in places like Tumblr, and then the right got their hands on it and decided to make it a big issue. And I'm not necessarily talking about your specific sphere of the right, Ty. I'm talking about the culture war side of the right. They love to They love to find issues and, blow them up massively, and then it turns into a giant squabbling fest.
Well, it's like
my take on this, and I'll make it quick. And it's just that I believe I agree with most of the things that you're saying. I think the reason that it has become such a culture war issue is because it is very easily like trans people are very easy to make the target. And then when you can make trans people the target, then you can easily move to like gay people and do the whole like, groomers like turnaround where like, oh, you're the groomers now. Like,
Well, I mean, if we're going to talk about it, like, the attacks against trans people have very closely followed the attacks that used to be on gay people, the attacks before that were on black people, the not to this, like, not of the same type, but to the same extreme that we saw attacks against Arab and Middle Eastern people during the 2000s and the early 2010s, before we shifted. Like, you can see kind of a pattern to the shifting of who is the biggest focus in the culture war during various decades. You had the gays in the 80s and 90s. You had brown people in the 2000s and early 2010s.
I'm so sorry, Doghouse.
I have a feeling that DH wants to switch topics here.
Oh no,
yes, go ahead.
You're good.
I do agree.
I got my dog
that,
going nuts right now, so that's
these
why I was
are the same things as Willie Horton ads in the 80s. Like it just changed its
Keep
tone.
the convo going. I'm gonna be right back.
But go ahead.
Oh no, I was saying I'll be right back. I gotta let my dog out. Continue the conversation about the culture war and everything, because I do think the culture war relevantly right now, which is where we move into our next topic about immigration. So continue that conversation. I'll be right back. Give me 2 seconds.
Yeah. So I think I've largely made my point, but like, there's definitely this shifting target of the culture war. Whenever it becomes whenever it becomes in vogue enough to start attacking a certain group, they go after whatever group they think will give them the most kind of social capital within a certain subsection of the right wing, and will enrage the comparable subsection of the left. And then once you have the rage on both sides, it serves very well as a distraction for the sorts of issues that affect more people than the subgroup that is being attacked here. Which is not to say that the attack on the particular subgroup in question isn't important and isn't something we should be working on, expanding rights. But there's also the question of, like, is the constant focus on, whether or not some Olympic athlete is trans, is that distracting us from more immediate problems like, I don't know, the U.S. Funding and perpetuating various wars around the world, or, how tax dollars are being spent and whether we should be putting money into the military or into social programs or cutting taxes altogether.
Dude, I love everything you're saying, and I know DH is just like begging us to get to another topic.
No, we can. That's fine.
But like, I love this, and I just want to say, like, this is literally like the idea of like what a fucking CIA officer did like in the fucking 60s and what they did in 2024. Like, if you get hired for the CIA in the 60s, you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna use like some cool pen device to try and assassinate Fidel Castro, right? And then in 2024, you get hired to the CIA, and they're like, all right, we're gonna have to make you look, or like, you're gonna have to make Ken Klippenstein look really bad, and that's your job.
I mean,
have fun with that.
Like
Ah.
the James Bond shit of like CIA and spy stuff has always been a caricature of what intelligence actually does. Like
No, it
a good
hasn't, because they did that shit in the 60s. They were
Yes, but they
ridiculous.
All right,
were
I'm gonna
they
reel
were
this bin,
just
boys.
as
We've gone off
okay.
the deep end. We're on conspiracy land, baby. So, somewhat tangential. I'm gonna reel this in now because now we've gone off. We're like, we went from we went from Ken Klippenstein to culture war to CIA operatives, and I have no problem jumping topics, and they're somewhat related. I have no problem talking with it, but this is somewhat related, and that is we have seen Donald Trump have massive divisive rhetoric towards our immigrants. I think to the likes that I have not even seen before. We saw a little bit of it in 2016, 2017, 2018. Now, I know most of my fellow lefties on the panel are going to probably say that it's always been there, and it may have been, but I would argue that it was a little bit more toned down. There was a lot more uh, rhetoric around dog whistles and things of that nature. Here, it's just full mask off. Donald Trump, over the past several weeks, especially ever since the debate, even further back a little bit, has gone on this rant about our immigrants and whatever you want to call them, illegal or whatever, and in some cases legal. Okay, immigrants. And there's been a new poll or new data set that has gone around that has been absolutely making its waves through conservative think tanks, or not think tanks, conservative areas. And it's from from U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, from the Department of Homeland Security. The director, I forgot his name, but he released this over to Tony Gonzalez, who is a rep, I believe, for Texas. And there's a lot of issues with this. If you haven't seen it, I'll go ahead and link the tweet and chat for you guys. Give me 1 second. And what it is it shows out a list. It's from the National Docket Data for Non-Citizens by Criminality and Most Serious Charge category as of July 21st, 2024. So this chart ended up showing different kinds of crimes. Part of these is showing things like antitrust, arson, bribery, burglary, civil rights, so on and so forth, right? One of these is homicide. This is where a lot of conservatives have gone crazy because it also shows whether or not they are currently detained or not detained, and whether or not they are convicted criminal or pending criminal charges. I'm going to provide you some of the nuances, okay? One of the things that I'm extremely frustrated with this on is, one, the most glaringly obvious thing that's missing in this is when these were when these crimes took place. Second, what's super frustrating is that in and of itself, in the letter, it mentions ICE custody, not that they're out on the streets. That's important to note. Why would that be important to note? Because most people don't understand that they are going to usually be sent to the jail. They're going to be booked into the jail, and then pending their sentencing or pending ICE pickup, they will then be transferred to that particular department. You can, in fact, and I've seen this as someone who used to work in the prison system, you would be in a prison, a state prison, and then you'd be picked up by ICE for that detainer. So it's important to understand that just because they are not detained under ICE's authority does not mean that they are not detained, period. Second, third, this is the last thing I'll say, and then we'll keep going on this because I'm ranting at this point. Homicide doesn't always mean, and granted, I'm not saying homicide is good, okay? Homicide is very broad, okay? There is first-degree murder, there's second-degree murder, there's third-degree murder. Homicide could even be involuntary manslaughter or voluntary manslaughter, things of those natures, okay? And again, it doesn't say when these crimes were committed. So this could have happened under Trump. This could have happened under Obama. It just means that they're sitting there, not detained. This thing go back as far as Bush. So anyways, what do y'all think, guys? What everybody on the panel? I apologize for going on my soapbox there for a minute.
All good. So the other thing that I want to point out is
let's let Tiberius respond,
Yeah, go ahead, Ty.
if he's interested. because
All right.
Yeah, the problem is this is gonna be kind of a left-wing circle jerk for you guys, but I don't have much to push back against. First and foremost is that even I said something when this came out where it's like, considering like almost half of these are traffic violations, and I can't remember what the other one was. It was something like immigration as a whole, right? Like they had immigration charges between
Yes,
the list, right?
immigration's in there. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just like, I'm sure there's going to be like 80% of the narratives that spun off of this are bullshit. And largely what
51,933 of the convicted criminals that are not detained are due to immigration. And it says convicted criminal 425,431. So 51,000 of the 425,000, the most serious one is immigration. Sorry, I wanted to add that there for you, Ty. Go ahead, finish.
Yeah, I wanted to point out that that they're categorizing it by the most serious charge.
Income, let Tiberius finish real fast. Go ahead, Sam.
All right. Yeah, so the long and the short here is like I figured there was going to be a bunch of bullshit narratives that were going to come off of this one, and surprise, surprise, that's pretty much what's happening. Is there some levels where like I can look at this data and be like concerned? Yeah, actually the homicide numbers do concern me. But, you know, when we talk about the total population rep metric, it's no more than like 5%. And the issue is that there's nuance and details. And Doghouse is right with a lot of the criticisms. We don't know how far back this goes. We don't know when any of this happened. You know, it's just like effective as of this. There's too many questions here. This is literally what we call the spin zone. Like, unironically, you take a data set and then you try to put a narrative for it with it. And the problem is that I can take this data set and give 1,000 separate narratives to this. And this is one of the reasons why I hate politics today, is that there wasn't any due diligence. There wasn't anything where it was like, all right, hey, you know, we've got a problem. This is why. This is how we need to fix it. This is literally just, look at these numbers, folks. And then let people make their own decisions with it. Well, I'm sorry, America. I'm actually a Republican because of the fact that I believe that you are too busy to look at all this fucking data and make an educated decision. You've got a wife and kids and a house and a full-time job and your hobbies, where you're out doing your own thing. And then you're like, oh, hey, I need to be shown this information. And then you look and you see, hilariously enough, one of them was antitrust. I don't know if they found a hedge fund manager or something, but yeah, one of them was convicted for antitrust crimes.
That's the thing too, though, is that even further, this is just non-citizens. Guess what? If you have a green card, if I'm not mistaken, someone correct me if I'm wrong on this, a green card doesn't make you a citizen. You're still a non-citizen. You're just temporarily allowed to work here. So,
green card is permanent residence, but still not a citizen. Yes, the green card refers to the ability to permanently reside and work in the United States. You are not a citizen. You are still a citizen of your home country, but you are allowed to permanently reside and work in the United States.
And we will tax you.
Yeah, yes. Right. And so go ahead, Ancom. I know you wanted to say some things right there. Yeah, go ahead.
So, okay, there are a few things I wanted to bring up. First of all, the data given here says that in each of these categories, this is the most serious charge category. Now, I'm a person who spends a fair amount of time reading peer-reviewed scientific papers. If I were to read this in a peer-reviewed scientific paper, I would damn well expect them to be listing out the exact order in which they deem each category to be most serious. What goes above what, right? They should be spelling out the exact hierarchy that they are using. In this list, it is alphabetical. I know goddamn well they're not, they're not sorting seriousness of a crime but in alphabetical order. So I already know that, I don't know what crimes are being put above what others. Second, in terms of the largest groups of the non-detained convicted criminals, repeating what Doghouse first said, non-detained in this context just means not detained by ICE. They could still be and probably are detained by other law enforcement agencies around the country, and the cities and or states and or federal government, though that last category is highly unlikely, have simply refused the detainer to transfer them into ICE custody. So the largest categories here are, let's see here. The largest one was traffic offenses at 77,000 convicted and 49,000 pending. Then we have immigration with 51, almost 52,000 convicted and 40,000 pending. Then we actually, dangerous drugs, mind you. They don't say what
That's
kind of
very
drugs.
broad, right?
What qualifies as dangerous? Is this on the state level or the federal level? Because states have gotten a lot of, various states have put a lot of drugs, many
Keep
of
in
which were
mind,
previously considered dangerous.
there's no possession charges either on this list. It's just
True.
there's not possession of drugs. So for all we know, marijuana possession could even be included on this.
Yeah. And then assault, we have 62,000 convictions and almost 43,000 pending. So, like, with those categories, that takes up a huge amount. My third thing that I want to cover is the overall rate of criminality. The post, although the document itself does not mention this, the Twitter post it mentions 7 million migrants that ICE released while their cases are being processed. This wasn't in the document. This was just in the context given by the Twitter user Michael Schellenberger. So I don't know how accurate it necessarily is. But if I assume that's true, and I take the full number of non-detained, either convicted or pending criminal charges, which was approximately 662,000 out of the 7 million, that's about 9.5%. Now, if you compare that to the total criminality of the US, which is closer to 15% based on other data that was posted in response to this, you still end up with a rate of criminality of migrants that is lower than the general rate of criminality in the US. Now, I don't have distributions of like the seriousness of crimes, and again, we would need to have a conversation about, how we rank that seriousness. But if we're going based on just, whether or not they're even being charged with an offense, it's still much lower for the migrant community by about 2/3 about 2/3 as many migrants are criminals as the overall U.S. population. So
For
I would say it's
and for reference, the FBI released 20, and this is from just recent. We just saw this recent actually. Last week, the FBI released 2023 crime data, which showed over 14 million criminal offenses. Now, I want people to understand this because ANCOM said something that's very interesting. There's traffic offenses included in this. Now, I don't know how that's included in this as a serious charge. And I would almost be certain that the FBI talking about vehicular crimes, I guarantee you it's not including that 14 million. And it would be probably double if we're including traffic tickets, which I have a feeling is what they're including, which is absurd. And so 14 million criminal offenses for 2023 and 400,000 non-citizens that committed crimes. What are we sitting at? Probably like less than 1% of like all total crimes are committed by non-citizens. And
so I want to just quickly give context to the data I did earlier, which was the 15% figure across the total population. That's the percentage of the population with an arrest record. So I do want to, so that any arrest record in their history, it's not based on a single year, but then again, we don't know that these numbers are either, so it seemed safer to go with the more broad number. I just wanted to clarify that.
No, that's okay. And I did the math. It's about 3% of all criminal offenses are committed by non-citizens. This is what I came out to with doing 450,000, which is probably a little lower, divided by the 14 million. So 3%. And the thing that's really fascinating to me is I feel like conservatives and MAGA end up doing this weird thing where they try to they end up sticking their foot in their mouth by exacerbating an issue. So they'll sit there and say, we've got 10 million unaccounted for migrants that flooded through our border. 10 million. It's like, okay, how many committed offenses? Oh my God, there was 450,000 that committed a crime. I'm like, wait a minute. Pause. You said there was 10 million that ended up crossing the border that are unaccounted for, not just encounters, but unaccounted for. and yet 450,000 committed a crime. Those two don't work together. You can't get angry about both, okay? You can't get angry about both because they just don't work together. 450,000 is a really, 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 really low number. And again, even the 450 I go back to is like exactly like you said, Ancom. Think about this. Let's assume it is for homicide, which was even lower, okay? 13,000, okay? That doesn't mention when these crimes were committed. So this could be over the span of 10 years. And the 13,000 that committed these homicide offenses, first of all, I'd love for them to break it out, which one it is, first, second, or third degree. Why I say that is because if some immigrant, non-citizen, ended up committing first-degree murder and is in prison for the rest of their life, I don't think they're going to get detained by ICE because ICE is like, look, homie, he's locked up for life. We don't really want to put this on us. These are the least of our worries. You know? So I think that's why it's like this entire stat that I read and I saw conservative. I even saw some leftist, now granted, not a lot, that were like, listen, guys, we have to acknowledge that immigration is an issue. It's like, no, we can acknowledge it's an issue without demonizing an entire freaking population. Because I'm so tired of it that even today, Trump was mimicking that whole line that he said about they're coming to Minecraft your family. Like, come on, bro. Come on. Like, he's just outright saying this shit now. He's not even trying to cover it up. He's not even trying to sit there and be like, well, you see, there's a particular culture in a particular region. No, he's just flat out saying it. Like, look, we don't want anybody from this particular region south of the border. And this is coming from someone as me, like a freaking former conservative. This is why I don't want to be a part of this group. Anyways, go ahead. I'm over here freaking out.
Yeah, there's one last thing that I literally just now realized, and I'm reading through this letter again just to make sure I didn't miss something, and I don't think I did. Mind you, this is pure speculation, so I'm gonna preface with that. But something I'm noticing here is it is never explicitly stated whether any of these crimes, whether convicted or pending charges, are crimes in the United States. Meaning, I don't know for certain that they are not including crimes that have been charged or convicted from another country where we may not have confidence in their judicial or law enforcement system of being accurate and, that the conviction system is as impartial as it is in the United States, which I just find an interesting thing that they didn't specifically mention that. I'm guessing it is heavily implied that these are charges in the U.S., but it doesn't specifically say that. And now I'm wondering, right? I realize this is kind of speculation that may seem a little extreme, but it bugged my brain for a second to be like, wait a second, they never mentioned this is in the U.S. So, like I said, there are so many questions that I have that this document doesn't even come close to answering. And then the fact that people will look at these numbers and will not go into any detail in, like, looking up more broad criminal statistics to compare. They will just see these numbers and be outraged, but they won't actually, investigate what is this in the grand scheme of things. So there's a lot of problems with this, and like being broadcast to the general public. Like I am very much in favor of freedom of information and all of these sorts of things being available to the public. But I think we do need to understand most people aren't going to understand this because we don't teach any real form of media literacy in this country. So people have no idea how to put any of this information into a broader context to understand the overall point being made, or whether or not someone is trying to use true data to claim a false thing. Which is, I think, what this is being used to do. Probably not by the director of ICE himself. I doubt he expected this to go as wide as it did, so I don't want to implicate him, but whoever gave it to this Twitter user and, you know, expected him to put it out there, that definitely seems to me like a deliberate tactic to mislead using true information.
Yeah, exactly. West Tiberius, still have anything y'all wanted to add to that?
I don't really. Like this is,
Okay.
I largely agree that this is a story that has specific information in it that people have decided to run with, as they usually do, and unfortunately, there's a lot of different conclusions you can make. Some of them are negative. Like I could still man that. Some of them are negative, sure, but um, a lot of the this is a kind of a forest for the trees conversation, and we still don't even have the backing data of like, all right, like what is the sample size of how many people that were arrested? You know, like it's just there's so many levels where um, I'm not scientifically trained, but I understand how to actually like make sure that you've accounted for things, having control, having um making sure that you're like accounting for your sampling bias, shit like that. There's
Or
a
at the very least, at the very least, just describing the methods. They didn't even do that much. So
yeah.
without the ability to even see how they came up with the numbers, see how they did the ranking, any of that shit, like you can't give this to some impartial, nonpartisan think tank and say, can you replicate these results? Because they're like, no, we have no idea how they got to these results in the first place. We don't know what data they were using. We don't know how they judged it. We don't know how they categorized and ordered it. We know nothing about how they did this. It is bad data. Simple as.
Yeah, absolutely. No, 100% agree. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to move on to a quick topic, but it's one that I kind of want to talk about. It's very quick, but it's something that I think is really interesting. And this will be the last topic. If anybody wants to jump in to our open call-ins, you're more than welcome to hit ! Discord on Twitch or YouTube and jump in, and we'll do open call-ins after this topic. If there's no one in there, then we'll just go ahead and end the stream and go from there. All right, guys. So the next topic I want to talk about is I'm gonna mess this up. Okay, I'm gonna mess it up, and I apologize to all my Ukrainian comrades. Okay, Vladimir Zelensky. I hope I said that somewhat clean. He
Pretty
ended
close.
up okay, cool. Ended up visiting the U.S. and visited Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. There was one glaring difference. Donald Trump was pro-Putin. Kamala Harris was pro-Ukraine. And as such, the body language of Zelensky was so dramatically different. He was with Trump. He looked very stiff. He looked very like, please blink twice if you need us to get you out kind of look. With Kamala Harris, he was, I'm going to say it because I know it likes to trigger everybody. It looked more joyful. Zelensky was like having a good time. He was like laughing. He was really loose and everything else. But with Trump, he was like being kind of like, I'm next to a megalomaniac, you know? What are y'all's opinions about?
I'm standing next to America's Putin. That's what his body language was. And the fact that Donald Trump went on about how good his relationship with Putin was, to the point where Zelensky literally had to interject, I hope your relationship with us is better. Right? Like, that is a statement one makes out of fear. Like, he said it in a joking way, but it was that joking because it's the only way to take the tension off kind of joking. It's joking out of absolute dread joking, right? He was terrified.
Trump then goes to say, it goes both ways. I'm like, oh God, no. No.
Yeah, it was. Suffice to say, it seems very clear that Zelensky, at the very least, thinks that Kamala is the far better presidential choice for the interests of Ukraine and the continuation of the war, or rather, in preferably ending the war, but who knows. Anyways, but yeah, it definitely seemed clear what his preference there was, and I think a lot of people who support Ukraine, which I think includes a lot of people on the right, should be taking that into account.
Ty, as our resident foreign relations mastermind over here.
Oh,
Who do
here
you
we go.
think as the broad? I'll give you a more broader topic other than going nuts over the Zelensky deal. Who do you think is going to be the better candidate for Ukraine and U.S. relations?
Yeah, I think this is actually a conversation of what do you want. If you actually want the war to end, I'm going to say it. It actually is Trump, but it's not out of the it's not actually because he's going to make all the nice things happen. It's because he's probably going to sell them out. At best he's going to give them a very shitty deal, and he's like, "Hey, Moscow, you guys get this. Kiev gets this, but it will largely be in line with what most of what Moscow wants." And that bothers me a lot. Um, if that were to change, that would be great, but I generally see this as one of those things that, at least by his rhetoric and what he has presented so far, because he acts like he has a plan. And in all fairness, if I actually had a plan to go after Putin, I'd be a little hush hush about it myself, truthfully. But on the other side of this is that everything that he has hinted at, everything that he has vibed at, is not that Ukraine is who he's interested in helping out. It is actually the Russians, which is terrifying and mortifying to me. If you actually want to see Ukraine even have a fighting chance at maintaining relative independence, I think it's easily Harris. Because I'll be real, like if Trump has a way to get it or getting this to where the war ends, but Moscow doesn't get what they want, that's great. But he's not indicated that to me. He's just like he's got this big pie in the sky plan. He's like, I'm gonna get them into a meeting. Well, the problem is, like, you've got a lot of gaffes lately, buddy. You got a lot. And a lot of them really, like, I'll put it this way. I don't think this guy holds his cards to his chest very well. He lets the card slips, whether that's on purpose or not, I'm not sure. But at least by everything that he's shown, the deck is going the other way. So if you want a free and independent Ukraine that even has a chance of fighting the Russians, it's Kamala. If you want to see that's just scoot because you hate people dying, actually, you can vote for Trump, but I think you're an idiot.
I love it.
Now there is one thing, because I don't feel like this distinction is being made often enough, and I'm not suggesting that Ty or anyone wasn't making this distinction or didn't mean it, but I do want to point out that I think that what I heard was that the polling in Russia among just the general Russian populace is that a majority of them want the war to end. I remember when the war first started, there was a huge anti-war movement that got pretty violently suppressed within Russia. And it sounds like since then, the movement, or at least the opinion that the war should end, has grown within Russia. And I think that it is worth noting that the Russian people seem to have the opinion that this shit should stop, and that it is the leadership and the oligarchs who are, compelling it to continue. So I just want to point out that, like, whatever you think of Russia in this war, remember that it's the leadership of Russia, not necessarily the people of Russia, who are continuing to push this bullshit.
Yeah, don't forget we have conservatives that are currently being paid Russian, being paid by the Russians. So we're being attacked on all fronts. Yeah, Wes, do you have anything you wanted to add to this Russian or Ukraine or anything like that you wanted to add?
I'm dealing with a bunch of shit right now, but
Okay.
the only thing I wanted to add is that this entire attitude is the same way that people are approaching Israel, and they're just like blaming everything on Bibi Netanyahu instead of like most of the Israeli population who agrees with them. And they're doing the same thing with Vladimir Putin and not like recognizing the Russian population in that kind of whole. And that's all I want to add.
I got you. Well, look, guys, there wasn't a whole lot of news going on this week, and I try to keep things to be a little bit current, a little bit relevant. Oh, I think we lost Wes. That's okay. Wes has got some stuff going on. anyways, we've not had a lot of interesting news going on this week. There's gonna be a lot more that we're gonna cover on Tuesday about some of the more recent events that have taken place in more detail. But for this show, we wanted to cover some of these core topics. We're hoping, and if you are we've got a few right wingers in our Discord that'll eventually be coming on at some point. But otherwise, the reason why this tonight's show it was good, but we have a lot of a lot of leftists in here and not enough righties. So we are going to hopefully get some more right wingers in here and talk about it. But guys, this is the Political Compass. We host this thing every Saturday, and sometimes it's a leftist circle jerk. Sometimes you're gonna have some heated discussions, and that's okay. We'll eventually get there. But I don't think we have anybody in the waiting room at the moment. We don't. So what we're gonna go ahead and do is we're just gonna close out. I'm gonna let Tiberius and Ancom shout themselves out, and then we'll start wrapping some things up. Tiberius, go ahead and shout yourself out, buddy.
Alrighty. Yeah, I've been Tiberius D. If you happen to like what the hell I had to say today, which is not a lot, feel free to stop by over at Tiberius D on pretty much every social media. I'm currently kind of revamping most of the stuff that I'm doing. I like to talk about politics. I like to do geopoll and stuff. But the problem is that, it doesn't seem like a lot of people want to talk about that kind of stuff on the level that I do. So I'm kind of debating on turning up my YouTube channel into like a Warhammer Fantasy channel. If you have noticed, I've actually been painting some figurines from that particular game, and then turning like my TikTok and Instagram into like what I like to cook for myself and whatnot. If people want to keep me in politics, that's fine, but I'm generally kind of just cashed out on the conversations that have been. And just feel free to message me or get a hold of me if you want, or just come stop by and say hello.
Awesome. Ancom, go ahead and shout yourself out, buddy.
Well, I don't stream anywhere, but you can find me around Discord. I'm always happy to have a conversation about all sorts of things. I'm also very occasionally on Twitter and Blue Sky and a couple other social media places, all under the name Ancom Zycom. So find me around, chat me up.
That's perfect. Well, guys, this is your boy, the Doghouse Show. I stream Tuesday and Saturdays. If you are new to the channel, please make sure, especially if you're on YouTube, hit that like, subscribe, notification bell. And if you are on Twitter and you're watching this, hit that follow button, please. We are making waves today on TikTok. We ended up hitting a max of 84 viewers on my live stream on TikTok. It was amazing. And it was only with 1 hour streaming too. So if you want to check me out on any of those. You may occasionally see me on TikTok dancing to Taylor Swift. Okay. I'm not proud of it, but I might have some sparkly pants on. I might call myself a Swiftie every now and then. It's okay. I'm embracing my leftist. Okay. You might find me, anywhere else. Okay. Anyways. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm going to go ahead and send this raid over to Tiberius D. Ty,
Cool.
Are you going to continue to stream on after this?
Yeah, I actually told people that I might do an open panel, although I thought the open panel wouldn't be open for about an hour. So, I'm going to jump over there, and then we're going to hang out and do the things that we're doing. Thanks for stopping by, and thanks for passing off the raid. I'll paint and I'll chat with people on anything that they want to chat about.
Sounds good. Hey, Tiberius, what is your Twitter or Twitch name? Because I have it
Tiberius_D.
There it is. There we go. Okay. Tiberius's channel is intended for mature audiences, so please note that. He might say some occasional no, I'm kidding. I
tend to curse. I tend to curse like a sailor.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Y'all have a great evening. I will see y'all next Tuesday.